Hey, welcome back. There are concerns that the continued state of disaster will negatively impact teaching and learning. The national state of disaster is affecting the attendance of pupils, and with 2 days left before coastal schools open. For more on this, I'm joined by the Western Cape Education MEC, Debbie Shafer. MEC, thank you for your time. So just from your side, when you look at your dashboard, ahead of Wednesday and the reopening of schools, how's it looking?
Hi to Luciza and good morning to your viewers. It's looking pretty good. We've really worked extremely hard. As you know, we always have issues with unplaced learners. We've done a lot of work to try and do absolutely everything possible to try and ensure that as many of our learners can start school on day one as possible. There are still some who have not yet been placed, but it's far lower than last year, and we put a lot of additional measures in place. We've created an additional 18,640 seats this year. We're adding new brick and mortar classrooms to schools, putting mobile classrooms in. We've created an additional 590 teaching posts from the 1st of January. Starting 7 starter mobile schools. So we really have put a lot of effort into this. Obviously our stationery and so on for schools that qualify was delivered already last year, and we've really been working extremely hard. Our officials have done an excellent job in trying to ensure we start the year smoothly. But yes, we are concerned about the issue that you've just spoken about.
Yeah, so we'll get to the issue around the state of disaster and the rotational timetable in a moment, but I want to focus on the issue of placement for a moment. And you in the Western Cape, being a largely metropolitan and urban province, have problems that are sort of similar to Gauteng. The movement of people between provinces and various areas for economic opportunities, etc., means that, you know, you're chasing a moving goalpost. But how do things stand in as far as placement is concerned? How many pupils are placed at the moment, for example?
Yes, you're right. We've been chasing goalposts, the same kind of moving goalposts for the last 5 to 6 years, where we've been receiving an extra 18 to 20,000 learners every single year, which means we actually need to build 18 to 20 extra schools per year, which unfortunately isn't possible. But at the moment, we've reduced a lot. We've currently got 469 grade 1s still who have not yet been placed, and 2,620 grade 8s. We are still, however, seeing people now only coming to apply for schools, and obviously they're going to have to wait a bit longer, but we really, as I said, we've put all these other measures in place as well to try and ensure we're creating extra spaces. Some of them won't be up and running as from Wednesday, but we'll make a plan to ensure that those learners do at least get education in the meantime while we are building those mobile classrooms.
Yeah, and in terms of such considerations as ease of access, such that a person is able to have their child placed at a school that is quite convenient and works around where they live and perhaps where they commute to on a daily basis, but also around issues of integration of communities. Are you seeing that coming to the fore, concerns around those issues?
There are a lot of schools, some people don't want to go to schools that are closest to them, and that's creating some difficulties for us, because obviously the people who live closer to schools would like their children usually to go to those schools. But there's also a bit of a misunderstanding about some of our schools. Some people keep on saying that our township schools are not good, which is absolutely not true. There are some excellent township schools, but sometimes people feel that schools in other areas are better, and that is creating a lot of pressure for us. And also in every area there are schools that are more favored by parents and learners than others, and we're seeing a lot of people applying to only certain very select schools where they would prefer their children to go, and not to other schools that are maybe also close to them. So that is creating pressure for us, because parents are not always happy with that, and we're wanting 1,000 children are wanting to go to one school where there's only about 200 places, and that is creating some difficulties. Yes. Yeah,
MSc, not to personalize the issue, but to give this as an anecdote and an example. A friend of mine, Malibongwe Nqanqase Sondas, who happens to be an educator also in the province, was sharing on social media that he has applied to 10 schools 10 different schools, all of them saying they are completely oversubscribed. He is at his wit's end, to the point that he actually suspects that, there's a possibility that his child may sit this year out. Not to personalize it around one person's circumstances, let me ask you, MEC, are you able to give an assurance right here, right now, that such an occurrence will not happen to any child who needs to go to school in the Western Cape?
Yes, I've had a number of cases like that. I mean, just today I've been replying to quite a number of parents who are also at their wits' end. We can guarantee that we will find a place for every child, as might not be the place where the parent necessarily wants their child to go. And we really urge parents to work with us and make sure that we find the best possible fit where there is space for their child to go to school.
Right. MEC, that issue then that I know you're quite passionate about, the issue of rotational learning, that one day in, one day out during the week and rotating the next week, etc. There had been petitions and pleas for that to be dropped and scrapped, but the education minister, deciding that this will continue until there's some common ground between herself and her colleagues, her colleague at health and cooperative governance and traditional affairs. Why do you believe this system has served its purposes and should be scrapped?
Because the pandemic has changed a lot. The coronavirus has mutated, as we well know. We've seen a lot of different emerging things. We've learned a lot of lessons over the last 2 years. And the Omicron has been generally regarded across the world as not being as severe, firstly. Secondly, all our teachers have had access to the vaccine. So we've seen through the data from our health colleagues, we've been having regular briefings from them on the matter. We've had a much lower death rate, very few deaths, fortunately, and very far lower numbers of people who've been hospitalized. And when you compare that, even last year in July, when we were still in the heat of the third wave, the MEC advisory committee was saying that the amount of learning loss that's happening in primary schools, particularly at that point, is so bad that there's absolutely no reason why they should still not be going to school full time. Things have changed even further since July, and the evidence is all pointing to us that the risks are far lower. They're extremely low. On the other hand, the risks of our children not being in school are increasing by the day. They already are huge, and to try and get back the amount of learning that has been lost over the last 2 years is going to take a long time. It's going to affect the children's future. It's going to affect our country's economy. And we believe that on balance, the risks are far lower, and that the health advice to us is that if you have well-ventilated places and continue to wear the masks and sanitize, that should be sufficient protection.
Lastly, MEC, on a lighter note, who takes the floating trophy this year in the next 2 days? Is it you, or is it going to be MEC Tate Magwe again? Or could Panyaza Lesufi come in at the last minute and snatch it from both of you?
We'll have to see. Actually, honestly, don't know. We're obviously hoping to. We always do, but I've always said every year, even in the year when we came first, I said that we don't kick our children out. And other provinces have got very high rates of learners dropping out from grade 10 to grade 12. So my priority number one is to keep as many of our learners in school, finishing their matric as possible. If we get number one, that's obviously wonderful.
Fantastic. MEC, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights on these matters that we've raised in the last few minutes.
Thank you so much.